just to respect sensitivities, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself to make sure you share just enough information that you want about yourself.
Thanks, Sam. So my name is Kyle Bollen. I focus on collecting Byzantine gold, and been working on it for the last 6 years in conjunction with U.S. coins, and then I've sort of left U.S. coins on the back burner, and I've focused solely on this. So really excited to be here and be a fan of the podcast.
Yeah, I know we'd actually first met on Instagram and didn't actually really know each other's names or whatnot, and actually ran into each other at the ANA show, which was pretty funny. Just a small world with numismatics.
It is a small world, and my Instagram handle is Whiskey, Wine, and Coins. And originally, I had set it up where I was going to do like wine tastings and whiskey tastings and evaluate coins, and then it just all became about the coins. So I haven't changed the handle.
Sounds like the dream, though. Get some wine in there too, a cigar maybe.
Yeah, right. Then I went and had kids, and all that sort of went on.
Yeah, it gets more difficult.
Yeah, but no, it's I started on Instagram, and then I do a lot on Facebook. I've been having a good time learning about Byzantine coins and developing my eye for it.
And I know you had mentioned, too, looking at doing a podcast of your own on specifically Byzantine history and numismatics. I think that'll actually be a great addition. I don't know if you want to go into that a little bit, but it might be fun for our audience just to kind of know of, an up-and-coming program that's very similar to what we do here that I'm sure you get a lot of crossover.
Yeah, it's a question of time, really, but I have the first episode recorded. I'm trying to get a couple different episodes recorded so I can have a timely release of them going forward. But the idea is to analyze the history a little bit, and then the style of each emperor, and then on some episodes we'll go in different directions too, and talk about lightweight solidity, women on Byzantine, different things like that. So I'm excited to see the possibilities of it, but really want to track through each emperor and sort of analyze the style and the finer style solidity that might be out there, or sometimes the weaker style, equate it to the historical context.
Definitely, that sounds very interesting. And I know with Byzantine, oftentimes that can be a lot more important. I just think I know it can get very complex quickly, especially once you factor in provincial coinage and whatnot. So I think actually having sort of an easily accessible podcast series that might go into things and aspects like that would actually be very, very useful.
And it's a learning podcast. I don't claim to be an expert on everything. So I think that as I do it, I will learn and hopefully get some good feedback on things. I hope that it will be as I put more of these out there, that you get more and more information from different corners.
Definitely.
It will hopefully get better as they go.
Yeah, that's kind of how we started too, just, I don't know, off the cuff, and it gets easier as you go along.
Right.
Well, speaking of learning, I feel like at the ANA show I actually did learn quite a lot. I was, number one, first of all, most surprised just at the size of the show. I had gone to New York Inc., I guess that would have been, January of this year, and I'd say the ANA was maybe twice that size, although, of course, they weren't all ancients every table. A lot of them had U.S. coins and whatnot. But just my first impression walking in, I've got some photos here, it was just the massive size of the show. So this picture here is pretty much the west wing. Then if you flick over, you sort of get the east wing of the show. And then you also had certain auction viewings upstairs and whatnot. But it was pretty massive. I'd say a few hundred dealers were here.
Oh, at least, yeah. I mean, it's the premier coin show in the United States, I think. It brings out everybody.
Yeah, and I will say one thing I kind of noticed, a personal observation, was I felt like going to NY Inc., I was sort of wowed just by the certain spectacular ancients on sale. But I mean, none of those are really in my price range. Like, all right, they had the Idmar Denarius, they had a $50,000 facing Licinius Solidus, a $250,000 Colosseum Sestertius. All that was very cool to see, but of course sort of unattainable for myself and my budget. But I noticed that at the ANA show, you had a lot more sellers that would have maybe a lot of sort of low-end ancients, maybe like 5,000 or below, but I actually found that that was very useful for me in terms of my budget, and that even though sort of those large items weren't here, I actually had more options available to myself in my budget.
Yeah, I mean, you have coins across the spectrum at ANA, right? And I agree with you on that assessment. The New York show is the premier ancient show, and it's expensive, and I think that most of the ancient dealers, it's all ancient world dealers there, bring their best stuff, and there's a lot of money at that show. But I've had success at both shows, but I think to your point, ANA definitely gives a broader spectrum of coins to work from.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see too, just the mix of, you had a lot of auction houses there, sort of well-known names of like C&G, Stack Bowers, etc., but also some smaller dealers. So that was kind of cool to see everyone in conjunction putting on a nice show.
Yeah, 100%. I flew out for the night in Pittsburgh, and I'm glad I did, because I actually, the last couple ANAs, I've just flown into the day and then flown back out, and it's too much, and I feel like I ended up missing some opportunities as well. So having 48 hours at the show was really great for me anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it took you more than a day just to go through the whole bourse and see everything there.
Definitely. I mean, and the way I approach a show is, I walk through very quickly and just scan each table for different things, and then I kind of go back and delve into the tables that might have something of interest, and really get into it a little bit more. But that's sort of my show strategy.
I think honestly we're pretty lucky too, being in Byzantine. I just think there's not that much competition at shows like this, so it's not like there's a stress of like I've got to check out every table, or like in that sense of like day one, hour one, to make sure you get all the deals. I think Byzantine gets overlooked. Like you had even mentioned, you got that awesome Solidus, we'll go into it later, that was misidentified in the slab. But of course the competition of identifying that is going to be pretty low. Or like for me, rare trachees misidentified, I feel like we're pretty fortunate in that we're not collecting like Republican, to where everyone knows the types and there's no chance of getting a deal, or if there is a deal, it's bought up immediately.
Yeah, I agree. Byzantine is very nuanced, right? And it's something that most dealers don't focus on, or it's a sideshow for them. I mean, you have to do a lot of digging at a show like the NA, and there's definitely Byzantine there, but it's not like the New York International. There's a lot of experts on that kind of thing, and there's dealers that are experts on it at the NA for sure. But I feel like if you dug around a little bit, you could really find some good stuff, and I ended up buying several nice pieces.
Yeah, my main purchase of the show was actually this. It may not look that much to the average collector, but it's actually a very rare Byzantine Tornese, the second known, and it was kind of an interesting story. It actually came up for sale at Bucephalus, the auction house. I guess it would have been just a couple months ago this year, and I was hoping to bid. I actually had quite a large max set up for it. The day came, I totally forgot about the auction, missed the lot, didn't bid, was kicking myself for a while. But somehow the dealer that bought this coin was at the ANA show, and even with, which was kind of surprising to me, Bucephalus had a correct identification for the lot. I mean, usually for that sort of tier of auction house, you don't get that. They'll copy and paste the lot description from somewhere else, but they had actually gone on the Dumbarton Oaks website and found the exact match of this coin, and they were correct in saying the second known example, the first to be sold. But somehow it only went for about 200 euros at the time in the auction. I think the hammer was 190. So after buyer's premium, that came out to about $250 US, and the seller who had this coin at their booth somehow bought that with the description and then cataloged it as a normal type instead of what it actually was, and we're selling it for $250. So I got the exact coin, I forgot to bid on it, the exact price I would have paid, even though my max would have been several times at the live auction. So I got pretty lucky in winning this. It's a very nice piece, yeah.
Really awesome.
Yeah, just kind of a story, I guess, of, I don't know, a little unusual. Usually you would think that, especially with the description having all that information in there and even linking the Dumbarton Oaks website, the dealer would have gone and checked that out. But for whatever reason, it just kind of got swept under the radar. But, I mean, to my advantage, can't complain.
Was the dealer, focused on this kind of...
No, definitely not. Oh, Ancients maybe, but not Byzantine. I'm forgetting his name right now. But yeah, I think he did mainly like Greek and a bit of Roman, which like I guess that's every dealer pretty much.
That's a really nice pickup. I mean, that's happened to me several times where either I've forgotten to bid on something, or I saw it and I was saving my money for something else that I was going after, and then I've run into it at a show and I jumped on it, and it's really typically only for the next bid up basically is what I paid for it. So it does happen, and it always feels good when it does.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big advantages of shows too. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten that on, say, like V-Coins or MA Shops or retail. You kind of have to go to some of these shows to get some of the deals. So I think maybe, especially once you specialize, I don't know if it matters that much when you just sort of collect. Like if you're going to collect every ancient coin, Greek, Roman, and Byzantine, it may not matter. But once you specialize, I'd say it's certainly worth going to these shows just because you never know what shows up.
No, I agree. And I found some really nice things at shows over the years that I don't think I would have found online, or maybe even had a chance to get online, because I'm not checking every day, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I've gotten some really nice styles at different shows where I feel like they've been really nice wins.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was pretty happy with that. I mean, that was pretty much my only major purchase, but that's also just because, like, I am so specialized. If it's not rare late Byzantine, I'm just not going to buy it. So,
Yeah.
but that made the show worth it to me just to get that piece. That was very exciting. So I was happy with that. And then one other kind of cool thing I did see was the Stax Bowers lot viewing. So I guess they recently had two big auctions. One was an American coin sale, and that was actually live here at the ANA. And they had a second portion you could go see that was the Ancients, which was the following week, but not held live. And while I was there, I got to see this. This is a 4 solidus gold chrysobulla. Normally, all these seals come in lead, but for the emperor and special documents, they would actually issue their seals in gold. So this is, I'm pretty sure, the only 4 solidus seal known in existence. So it was pretty cool to see. Obviously, a little bit out of my price range. I wish I could have won it, but it had some interesting bid shenanigans going on. So this sold in 20. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. What did it sell for?
That's the interesting part. So in 2019, it sold for $40,000 at Heritage before buyer's premium. So about a $50,000 coin. It opened at Stax Bowers at $18,000. The day of the live auction, it was up to $19,000 with 2 bids. But once it entered live bidding, both bids were retracted and it went unsold. So
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this buyer paid pretty much $50,000 and couldn't even sell it at 18, which was very surprising to me. I mean, I think $40,000 was definitely an overpay. I just don't think at this point Byzantine coins have that much of an appeal. Unlike Roman, I just...
That I feel like is
Yeah, I would say so. But yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that. I did reach out to them to see if they would take like a lowball offer, but they never responded, so I'm assuming that's a no.
You never know.
Yeah, but I just think...
Right?
Yeah, well, you got to shoot your shot, you know. That's just life. But I don't know. I just think that kind of goes to show Stax Bowers is maybe not ideal to sell ancient coins at. I just feel like, especially this sale, was a bit of a flop. I mean, they had an Eidmar Denarius that sold for a good bit, but they always do. But the rest of the coins sort of underperformed.
I personally, if I owned that coin, I would put it into CNG or NAC. Those are the two that I think would draw out the best bids for this rarity. And it's a rarity. There's no, I mean, it's all the time.
And I wonder too, I mean, not to get into the whole slab aspect, but it is hold, which I think for certain collectors that do like just slabs for the grade, that's going to be a big downturn. Even though it's unique, they're going to see that and scare them away. And it was also graded extra fine, so I do wonder. I know Stax Bowers is sort of a grade heavy auction house in that people that go there want to get high grades and slabs, and they're not going to buy raw. I think you're right that if you crack this out and sold it to CNG or NAC unslabbed, you'd get a lot more.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? People showing up at their auctions and what they're looking for. There was that gold Eidmar that sold was hold and nobody cared, right? It was because it's a rarity. I mean, and I think that this is a rarity that, I think you're right. I think Stax is the wrong option.
I do wonder too, sort of in the slab. I mean, it was mentioned as a seal, but if you don't know what you're getting into, you can't see it here, but you could see it in hand. There's obviously like a giant gash at the top and bottom where you would have had strings attached to the letter. So I wonder if prospective buyers saw that and thought maybe there was some sort of damage to the coin, and not knowing the series of seals, just sort of assume that was some sort of flan flaw.
It could be. It could be. I mean, the U.S. market, they're looking for 5.5, 5.5 in-state with no sort of details grading on it, right? I mean, I feel like most of the coins sold in the U.S., they're buying a slab rather than the actual coin. And I think that the coin gets lost sometimes when they have a lot of details and things like this on it.
Definitely. I mean, you can kind of see, I mean, even though it's unique, it's still got whatever wear, a couple scratches. It is hold. So I don't know. I guess I could kind of get it, but I just feel like in my mind, the buyer's market who would go after this piece wouldn't care about that. I just think sort of in presenting this coin at Stacks, you sort of have that problem. But then again, at Heritage, it sold for 40,000. So I don't know. That's obviously another sort of grade heavy auction house.
It is. It is. I think they have a little bit larger depth of customers, but not that Stacks does. I mean, Stacks has.
Still, I think they kind of are like.
I'm surprised that one that didn't get sold at that point. It's inexpensive.
Yeah, I mean, you would think sort of like even at the 40,000 range, that's almost like a 1 or 2 Solidus medallion piece, and not a 4. So yeah, I don't know. It seemed like that would have been quite the bargain, but for whatever reason, maybe just a confluence of all those factors, it went unsold. But that was surprising to me. And rest in peace, the buyer.
Yeah. Right. And honestly, I didn't see this. I didn't track the auction, so seeing this and hearing what it went for, I'm really surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's unsold, so if anyone ever wants it, I'm sure the buyer maybe, or the sellers may be happy to take whatever the initial offering for it. But yeah, that did surprise me. Just, I kind of would have thought, I don't know. I feel like a piece like this actually lends a lot of prestige. You get historical background too, where we have documents of the era saying, like, for high court dignitaries, a 1 solidus would be allotted to the Pope, 2 solidus to certain patriarchs, 3 to certain officials, etc., etc. And 4 solidus is the highest denomination we know. So I mean, it's kind of like the, I don't know, the coup de grace of the entire series, the only one known. I'm surprised no institution came along. But that makes me wonder, are there maybe worries about authenticity that I'm not clued in on? I don't know. It just seems very surprising to me at that price. But it looks authentic to me. I saw it in hand. I don't have doubts about it, but it just makes you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to wonder, especially but I really think that this is just a case of a beautiful point of the wrong one.
Yeah. Yeah, I had heard someone say that like the key to the ancient coin industry is knowing when someone consigns to the wrong auction house. That's when you get all your deals and all your pieces. And it made me laugh, but yeah, it's true to a certain degree. Like, not only is it knowing when someone consigns to the wrong one, but making sure when you sell, you go to the right one.
I mean, if I had $18,000, I'd probably would want this one.
Yeah, same.
Unfortunately, I'd sell a kid to get that, but...
Or maybe a kid would be nice. Win-win. No.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's a steal.
Yeah, biggest surprise of the A&A to me, just that even went unsold. But one more shock that I had lined up here was this funny slab I saw walking the floor. You've got an Anax slab here that has in the label posthumous Antoninianus Antioch mint. Well, posthumous didn't mint anything from Antioch. That's a historical impossibility. And you look in the slab, you get a Gordian III coin. Just very funny. I would have bought it, but it was like $130. I was like, that's not worth it for the meme. But it made me laugh. I've got evidence that it exists.
You got a photo. That's all you need, right?
That's like, man, that's embarrassing for Anax.
I mean, Anax, their attributions are, you never know what you're doing.
Yeah, that obviously shows someone who doesn't know what they're doing. I don't know. Like the Gallic Empire in Antioch, come on. And then the coin literally says Gordian on it. Like, just funny.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is they had two coins at the same time, and they put labels in the wrong ones or something like that.
But well, even then, like posthumous didn't mint in Antioch, so like they typed the slab up with that information for a historical impossibility.
Okay.
It's not like it's just mixed, but completely wrong, because the Gallic Empire didn't extend that far. So yeah, it's just.
I mean, you always have to look at the slabs, whether it's from NGC or from Anax, and do your own due diligence on them. There's mistakes made all the time.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a sec.
Yeah.
I know you found a great deal on an NGC slab that was misidentified. And of course, I know you told the buyer about it, and they didn't care. They sold it to you at the same price anyway. But honestly, that probably would have cost them a few thousand or a few hundred at least that NGC misidentified that.
Yeah. I mean, it's and I don't even know if they were misidentifying it at the time, or if they just weren't recognizing the mint on it. I don't know.
We can go into it right here, I guess. We can
Yeah.
skip ahead a little bit, but that was a very interesting coin, just in the sense of, I mean, people sort of trust NGC, and I will say I do think that in general they do a great job. I'm not a fan of the entire slab industry or just the idea, but I think in general, if you can sign or whatever, send your coins to NGC, you're going to get a roughly appropriate grade, and usually they're pretty good about authenticity. But here's an example of sort of getting a key rarity wrong and costing that person who submitted the coin some money.
So what's interesting is this is a Justin II Solidus, and it's attributed to Alexandria. And early on, I've seen earlier slabs where they had it and they didn't say anything about Alexandria on it. I've seen other slabs where they have Alexandria question mark on it, and I've seen other slabs where they say definitively Alexandria. But this is an accepted style of Alexandria. You can see that the style of the emperor is a little different than some of the other styles that you see today.
Yeah.
Especially around the eyes. And then on the reverse, you'll see a cross in the field, sometimes a cross with a pellet.
That's a big giveaway.
That is the giveaway, right? And that's tied to an attribution because there's a Solidus out there with a cross in the field, and it says Alexov in the excerpt instead of Kronov.
In the same style, that's different than the normal.
Yep, and they all have the Opsenia I at the end of the legend. That's another good way for Justin II.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not my area of expertise in terms of market pricing and whatnot. I don't know, but isn't it usually like they go for about twice what a normal Solidus would? Give or take, Alexandria, Constantinople.
Again, it depends on who shows up at an auction and how much the auction house is hyping it up as a rarity. I feel like sometimes bidders have to be told this is a rarity before it goes, and so some of these fly under the radar. I think personally, I think that this is an 1800 I've seen them auction for between $600 and $1,300 or $1,400, depending on the auction and the grade of the coin. NGC, I didn't put the grade in there. NGC graded this, I think AU 505, 505, or 405. I can't remember, but my thing with NGC is I think NGC is tremendous at legitimizing your coin and making sure that it's real. From a grading standpoint, I really struggle with how inconsistent they are and have been over the years. They've added a lot of these things where there might be edge bends or different things that are not innocuous to a coin, but they call them out, and then they're sold in the U.S. market, and they go for half of what they should.
I think it's funny too. A lot of that would be a product of the actual minting process, but somehow NGC thinks that's a flaw. It's like, no, that was done at the mint before the coin is even struck, but it's a quote unquote flaw. I thought, let me pull this up. This kind of made me laugh too. C&G did this recently here. Their Leontius Solidus in the auction. I don't know if we want to go into it. We don't have to, but I don't know if you saw that.
It's beautiful.
But they have a
coin, but they're right on. They are right on in that it would come up as clipped if you sent that to NGC. But they were always clipped at the Opsenia, and trying to get the right weight out. Especially those later ones after like Constantine IV. There was the weight standard dropped to like 4.15.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
But I just think it's funny that you would even have to write that. I mean, the equivalent would be on a Constantine I Solidus, a huge write-up about why the coin weighs 4.5 grams and not 8 grams like the Aureus. Just seemed a little silly that you would expect the buyers to know that, but they went ahead and wrote that description anyway. I guess it's not going to load on me. I don't know what's going on here, but that made me kind of laugh. Or I don't know. I would almost think that if you're going to buy a Syracuse Leontius Solidus, you would go ahead and already know the intricacies of the era. And I mean, if not, wouldn't that be on you and not the auction house? That just seems like it's not really a write-up about like an extreme rarity or a new type, but a common known piece of information about that.
I think they did that because somebody's going to buy that. They'll submit it to NBC and it'll come back to Cliff. And Cliff has this negative connotation that comes from, you know, more modern coins where a coin was worth a certain amount, and that people shaved off pieces of it to, I guess shaved off pieces of it to make a little extra money on it. Most Byzantine gold transactions were weighed transactions. These were
Pretty much all.
coins.
I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah.
a source that includes indication of using face value. It was always on a scale.
It was always on a scale, and what was guaranteed was the purity.
Exactly. That's the whole idea of the stamp on the coin. It's pure, but the weight doesn't really matter.
There was a weight standard that they tried to get to, but like I said, all of these transactions were done with weight transactions, and these are treasury coins. Most of these things were big bulk transactions, that you held in reserve for different things, and that's why we find such beautiful examples that are out there, because a lot of these are just buried and circulated.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a pretty cool piece that I saw at the Met Museum recently. Actually, this weekend I was up in New York. They had an example of Byzantine silver, not a coin, but a silver bowl that was stamped with Constans II, and they were saying that pretty much up until the end of his reign, the Byzantine mint actually controlled all silver, no matter what, even in private circulation, and everything was stamped to sort of show the legitimacy and the purity, and you had to go through that, and it was actually very coveted to have a piece with those stamps on there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I know that silver was sort of a rare thing, because most of the silver has been drained out of the Mediterranean in the spice and silk trade.
And I'm not too familiar with the entirety history of that, but I would assume, of course, taxation will play a part in that as well, where you would have to pay a certain fee to get your silver legitimized. But here, look at this. So the problem is the actual plate, it's at the bottom, so you can't see it, but they have a photo here where they've got all the stamps of Constans II, and sort of showing that these would have indicated that the actual Byzantine mint officials or whoever was in charge of silver purity tested this, guaranteed its purity, and then stamped it on there. It's actually very funny. They had next to this an exhibit of a faked example where someone artificially chiseled on this stamp to make it seem like their silver was pure when it actually wasn't. So you even had counterfeiting going on with silver plates like this. But yeah, kind of this goes to give further evidence of, even like using coin dies on a silver bowl that would never be used in a transaction for coins, as in like a value of 1 solidus, 10 solidi, however much, but it's all about the silver purity and then the actual weight of your item. And of course, a piece like this, the beauty of it would give it more value, but for coins, it really just was. Your dies show that it was imperially checked for purity, but the weight is very variable, and that, yeah, you can kind of see that especially in later Byzantine coins.
That's really cool.
But yeah, we can go ahead and go through the rest of these. I know we kind of skipped ahead. I don't know if you actually had an order for these you wanted to go through. But this piece actually looked the most interesting to me. A very interesting type.
I didn't get this at the ANA, but this is we'll be putting a talk. And, this is a Constantine IV premises mint in Rome. I've been able to find about 4 of them that are known. So it's definitely a rarity. It's Byzantine coin. Any Byzantine coin minted in Rome is typically a pretty rare coin. Rome was controlled by the Byzantine Empire for quite a while. Just the city in that area, but they were sending through and doing coin mintages, but they're very rare. So I got this, and I'll be putting it on.
That's nice. Yeah, it's a good find. Yeah, I know, especially like Siliqua can get pretty expensive too from the era. You get a lot of like papal crossover. I would assume that for the most part, this kind of coin was actually issued by proper authorities, i.e. Byzantine authorities, but some of the anonymous ones, you kind of get into ideas of sort of, I don't know, papal sovereignty and independence, and there's been some arguments that some of those later coins, especially sort of in the 20 Years Anarchy, are actually the first independent Byzantine, or first independent papal issues separate from Byzantine.
Yeah, this was under imperial control, but yeah, imperial control of Rome wavered year by year, right? You didn't.
Yeah.
We don't really, and that's one of the things we don't really know. but yeah, to your point, I think that's right. That the Pope did have authority at certain times, depending on the Pope and depending on what was going on. Where they had much more autonomy than others with it.
And that's geography once again. I think Ravenna was a lot more defensible. So you had, even though once again we don't know everything that went on during this period, just it seemed more stable. The continuity existed because of the actual location of the city, whereas Rome is so easy, so prone to whoever Lombards coming through or whatnot. It just seemed like it was a lot more variable at the time.
And the way you can tell this is a Roman premises is this sort of anchor cross glyph in the field on the reverse there. So
There's supposed to be an omega there at the bottom.
yeah, I'm not sure. There is a big delta up on at about 2 o'clock, and I'm not sure if that's omega at the bottom or not.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. Very interesting though. Yeah, I know a lot of these too. You'll get the same officina marks across multiple emperors. I don't know. You remember my Theodosius III coin I had a while back. That was actually how I identified that. It was the officina mark. It was on Anastasius II, continued into his reign. So that was kind of a cool little tidbit. You can actually track a lot of times through reigns because they're so short or whatnot. Just the mint will use one mark. And then, of course, style too and whatnot going into it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought they had attributed that because of the style of the lettering on the legend.
It was that, and then if you look at Han and MIB 3, I think it's not 2, it must be 3. He kind of goes into the actual mint mark there as well. So it's kind of officina and style because it's certainly not Rome. You can tell it's got a definitely provincial but more refined look to the whole coin.
Yeah, and what did they attribute that to, Ravenna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one, but kind of the same idea of just I don't know. You've really got to know all your monograms and officina marks and whatnot, but once you do, it can certainly pay off.
Well, it is. That's the thing, you know. Once you get this knowledge, you can kind of start to look for different things, and you'd be surprised what you find out there.
Yeah, definitely. I guess next up we've got a lightweight Justinian Solidus. Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So this was one that I purchased at ANA. I thought I paid. I think I paid $1,200 for it, which I don't know. I don't know if that's too much or not enough. But
That's one of those where you keep in the slab, and once you sell, you'll get your money back.
yeah,
Definitely.
It's great graded. I think that it's one that it gives it a value add in a slab type of sale. But you know, I'm fascinated by lightweight solidi, and Justinian was the first to sort of do this. And the theory is it's, you know, with the Western conquests, for some reason there was a monetary standard that required this. I mean, they look like normal solidite, the same size, and they're just a lighter weight. And the only thing that gives away is typically a star or something in the egg group, like this one that says OBXX, which is OB is gold, XX is 20. So the theory is that it's worth 20 silica.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very interesting.
It's a rare coin. You know, I think I've heard them say from a hoard standpoint, when hoards of solidite are found, they're usually found in a 10 solidite to a 1 lightweight solidite. There's not a real big premium in the market for lightweights, but I think that it's to me it's very interesting.
Definitely. Isn't usually 23 also the common type? I don't know what Justinian, maybe 20 is for him, but I know a lot of times you'll see like 23 sort of in the later emperors, like Maurice, sort of around that era.
Yeah, there's like 20, 22, and 23, I think, because I think a solidate was supposed to be 24,
Mm-hmm.
a standard solid. So yeah, I think it depended on the emperor and the different needs at the time. I mean, all this is speculation. Nobody really knows why they circulated side by side with a regular solidus, but it did.
Yeah, very fun.
It happens to coincide with when Carthage and Sicily and Italy were taken, that they were first issued, and when they were when they stopped being issued, it was right around the time that cartridge
Hmm.
fell. So I think most sources show Justinian II as the last emperor to issue lightweight solidi. I did see in coin archives there is a Leontius
Oh, wow.
lightweight solid gold, but that was the last one.
Although, didn't he briefly retake Carthage for like one campaign season and then lost it again? I don't know if that would have correlation, but I think I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah, so he sent a fleet to retake Carthage. They took it for a bit, then lost it, and then that army sailed back, killed their commander, and elected Absamar as their new emperor. And then they sailed to Constantinople and overthrew Leontius, and he became Tiberius III.
Nice. It's a fun era for sure. Very Game of Thrones-esque.
Yeah, it's big time. It's very similar.
I guess you don't have any moms killing their sons yet, but that'll come. That's the next season.
That'll come. That'll come.
That's a cool coin for sure. I guess. Oh, is this another one? Very nice. So here's a 22 silico one. That works out nice. Kind of another example of a type very similar.
Yeah, so this is an example of a coin that was inherited in a recent auction, and it was an XCNG web shop purchase. I looked it up. The web shop purchase was $1,450. This coin auctioned at for $585.
Oof.
Because of the slab. The slab shows brushed. And
Which is a big nothing burger in my humble opinion.
100%. And edge bend on there. This coin in hand is sick. I mean, I saw this and I couldn't believe how inexpensively I just bought it.
I mean, I would say it looks pretty much perfect to me, the obverse. I mean, that looks as nice as they ever come.
It's gorgeous, and it's on a wide flange. And any brushing that I could see was on the reverse in some of the fields. But again, brushing is sort of, to your point, it's a nothing burger. But put that on a slab, and people don't want to see what they consider a detailed grade on a slab.
Yeah.
And the interest falls apart on it.
And also, like the edge bend thing, I mean, that would have most likely been part of a mint production, hammering on the flan, etc. I mean, you're not going to likely have, I mean, unless it's like plow damage afterwards, but that's obviously not the case here. I mean, you can almost safely assume.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, you can almost safely assume that's going to be a product of the mint, at which point it's not even a defect.
Yeah, I'll be pulling it out of the slab shortly and adding it to my collection. This one I did not buy to resell it. But,
Nice.
but, it's still good to get them at a good deal, right?
Certainly, yeah. I've kind of walked that line recently. I don't know. I'm doing a big sale with NAC. I think I told you about that, but I've got one coming up in November. So I'm kind of in an awkward spot of like, and I'm going also moving to Vienna actually this Thursday for pretty much indefinitely for 2 years. So I don't know. I'm kind of at an awkward spot where it's like, well, I don't know. Am I going to keep collecting during that period? Most certainly, but am I just going to buy good deals or actually focus on an area to collect? I don't know. And then kind of selling a lot of coins. I'm kind of in a similar spot where I guess I'm having difficulty in deciding what exactly to collect right now at the moment.
Yeah, I have a sort of a core collection that I have, and then other coins that I've bought, and I try to upgrade that core collection if I can. And other things that I buy that with the auction, because I think that will do well with that kind of thing. So you kind of I buy some and I sell some to keep buying.
Exactly. Helps pay for the hobby.
Yeah.
Cool. Here's another fun type. Very nice.
Yeah, this one is the last of the Syracuse issues before Syracuse falls to Muslims. But it's Theophilus. It's a really tight coin. It's really nice. And I did buy this probably to resell, but it's really nice in the end.
Yeah, it looks pretty much perfect. I also like the type of just Theophilus on both sides. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's it looks like a pedestrian style, but this is actually a really nice version of this pedestrian style. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's very nice, I'd say, and also it looks pretty much perfect. I don't know why there's a 5 dinged off on the surface to a 4. Seems kind of
But yeah,
random, but
again,
it.
I don't really know. I don't know either. I didn't see any flaws, to be honest. But
I mean, yeah, it looks like it's as nice as they come.
yeah, I was very pleased with this one. And when I do sell, I'll have trouble letting it go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, that is pretty much as nice as you'll ever get one.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
It's
cool.
an interesting time. It's sort of the last Byzantine issue from Sicily.
He's also a fun emperor too. Iconoclast,
Yeah.
repenting on his deathbed, maybe. Could be propaganda.
Well, the rumor was he liked to dress as a commoner and walk the city to understand what was going on. I mean, you could all those stories with different kings and emperors over the years, but he was apparently somebody that really had his finger on the pulse of what was going on with these people.
And wasn't his wife sort of the final triumph of orthodoxy in terms of iconography? Maybe I'm getting my emperors mixed up. I'm pretty sure that was his wife, though, where kind of on his deathbed, his son, the Regency Council for, I think it was Michael III. I might be wrong on that. I need to brush up. This is not my area of expertise, but I'm pretty sure at that point you kind of had the last sort of return to orthodoxy and the triumph of icons. Because it was Irene first, but they kind of repented later on, or not repented, but reverted back to iconoclasm.
But I think you're right on. You sound like an expert to me. Michael III was his son, and Michael III issued us with a portrait of Christ on the obverse with his portrait on the reverse. So
That would check out, I guess, yeah. But yeah, very fun ruler. I think as far as like the sort of the Middle Empire goes, Theophilus is certainly up there, just in terms of competency and skill.
yeah, I agree.
And this one we already saw, but yeah, very nice type, fun deal. And then, oh, nice, got a Leontius here.
Yeah,
It's always a great type.
This was another show pickup out of the slab, but it had been previously slabbed as Lisbon State. 4 of 5 strike, 5 of 5 surface. It's a really, really beautiful. I really dig Leontius and his coins. I mean, first of all, the style is tremendous, and it's during this style renaissance that was going on during the 20 years anarchy and just before that to the third. It's obvious that this is how he looked, because I don't think that they're not idealizing him.
Yeah.
He was a usurper and a general, so he had to sort of have his face out there. It's also the first time the Loro shirt is worn in an imperial portrait.
Yeah, which is very interesting. But it looks so bold and so clean. It's just so well done.
Yeah, he's got great coins. He was really an awful emperor, but he issued awesome coins.
Yeah, I mean, kind of talking about his portrait, I'm pretty sure he's the only emperor whose Western bronzes you can actually identify by the bust. I think he's the only one, because usually it'll just be the head, but his sort of distinctive jaw shape and his beard, too. I think he might be the only one that's actually unique in that sense. So you're definitely right about that, where he stands apart in terms of just how he looks.
Yeah, so they're cool coins. They're very rare. There was, I think, a horde of them found at some point, because
I think there have been for all of those emperors recently. I think I've seen.
Had a bunch slabbed. Like there must have been like 60 or so slabbed, and they were all pretty high grade. But the market was absorbed quickly, and I don't see a lot of them for auction.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that whole era, you can guarantee you're going to pay pretty high premiums for any emperor.
Yeah.
I guess Leo's pretty cheap, Leo the Third at the end, but still, even then, he's a lot more expensive than whatever, like a Justinian or a Justin II or Maurice or Heraclius or Constans.
I've been seeing Leos go for like mega money lately.
Really?
Yeah, the Nomos had a sale where they had a really beautiful portrait, and it had curly hair, and they pointed out that it had curly hair as opposed to a straight sort of bang on the Emperor's forehead, and they went for major money. And there's been a couple others that I've seen out there, but I'm seeing Leo's going for a lot of money these days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for him. He certainly earns it in terms of Byzantine history. He saved the state. He can get his nice hammers now.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very iconic type, just in terms of the whole Byzantine series. I feel like you're definitely right. Leontius certainly stands out just in terms of his whole general design. Immediately recognizable, whereas some other emperors aren't.
It really is. It's one of those things we don't have pictures of any. Most emperors don't have pictures of. We have a few mosaics that survive in different versions of Ravenna and in Turkey and stuff like that. But for the most part, there's no, what we would understand as a lifelike portrait. It's not like ancient Rome where you had these busts and they're lifelike portraits and portraits on the one. You just don't. They're very generic. I mean, they're of beautiful style sometimes, Byzantine ones, other times not. But they're typically generic. This one, I feel like you can pretty much say with certainty that this is what this guy looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's very different, which makes him stand out for sure. Yeah, definitely a fun type, and congrats on that. Oh, nice. Mr. Reno Mitos. The slit nose, golden nose.
Right. Justinian II in his second reign. And that's a portrait of Christ on the obverse, and it's considered a more Syrian type portrait with
definitely clean
curly hair,
braided hair too. I don't know if it's supposed to be braided or not, but it's not the shaggy long hair, at least, that flows down.
It's not, and the first reign portrait of Christ is much more an aesthetic version. I think personally that it's the better portrait of Christ. More recognizable.
This is more stylized for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would say I feel like, or go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say what struck me about this is the eyes and how enchanting the eyes are. It's one of the things I look for in a portrait is how the eyes come across. So this one really kind of took me because of the way the eyes sort of look mystical.
I think the robes are very well executed too. I mean, you can certainly tell. Oftentimes it gets kind of mushy, like his hand in benediction versus what his robes are. But here you can quite clearly tell, I mean, there's a hand obviously in the Gospels. It's I don't know, it's well executed and cleanly done.
Yeah, it is, and the reverse portrait of the emperor was very good. It's a little off center, but a good portrait. And
fun with the packs on the cross.
Globus crucifer. Yeah, packed sort of off the little wheat on that.
Sometimes you can't even tell it's there though, so I'd say that's pretty nice.
Yeah, listen. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it, but there are some little flaws on it.
Yeah, very nice issue though, and fun. I just think the type's cool. I also like that in his son. I think is his name Tiberius. I'm pretty sure it is. But where they both hold the cross, those are very fun too. Especially the provincial issues. The style on those gets pretty wonky. Yeah, I was gonna say earlier. I think that maybe somehow his first reign Christ almost holds up to modern standards of just, I don't know, there's a certain naturalism and beauty to it where I would say you're kind of right in sort of the Syrian Eastern style on his second reign issues certainly feel more Byzantine in sense of their style and iconography, but I'd say the first reign, I don't know, just has a certain natural realism to it that is almost, it's hard to beat in that sense. It just, it's very striking visually.
It does, and they're rare because I think they were issued over the course of 2.5 to 3 years, whereas the second had 5 or 6, but it might be 5. But I've seen style differences on Christ that are really, all over the place. I mean, they're all sort of the same style with the short cropped hair and the curly hair, but I've seen them with really prominent foreheads, larger, almost alien-like foreheads, to be honest, if you want to call it. But, so there's the style on the second reign is sort of it varies quite a bit.
Definitely. I think it might also speak to the more chaotic era he's ruling in now, just in terms of where the empire was during his first reign and second. You've got a lot more civil war going on, damage through that, sort of Arab encroachments. Could be a
Yeah,
reflection of that pressure too.
it could be, right? I mean, but one of the things that's interesting to me is that the style renaissance started under Constantine IV and sort of went through to Leo III, and it was these beautiful coins were coming back. Um, you know, in Constantine IV, they had coins that were almost cartoonish looking.
Mm-hmm.
The style had sort of fallen apart, and I think they finally decided to do something about it. And the artisans that were putting together these dies were really master craftsmen. And so while the empire was going through all these horrific trials and really just getting hammered on all sides, they're putting out some of the best coinage they've ever put out, and certainly the best coinage in the medieval era. There's nothing that comes close to that. So it's an interesting sort of dichotomy as to what's going on. The empire is not prospering. They're putting out this amazing coinage.
I think it maybe also helps to add legitimacy to the state. I mean, they're losing territory left and right, but at least their fiscal,
Right.
economic policies are still solid, which has always kind of been like a quintessentially Byzantine thing in the Middle Ages. I mean, most other states pale in comparison. Pretty much all of them do. I mean, I guess besides the Caliphate, I'd say it's hard to find a state during this period that's actually doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and the Caliphate really just took the Byzantine monetary system and made it their own.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously that changed as they went forward, but it was the tax and the tax farming, the fact that the money had always flowed to Constantinople, and that was tradition that allowed the Byzantine state to survive as long as it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those sort of institutions hold up even throughout the pressure. So I think it's really not till 1204 where you finally get sort of the breaking of that, and you get sort of a more feudalistic society that comes back in the end. And of course, it doesn't last as long. So I'm sure there's something to be said about this style of governance that actually lasted so long.
Yes, I agree.
But yeah, very beautiful coin, a very fun type. And then last but
Yeah.
surely not least,
I'm not a big bronze guy, but this one, for a couple reasons, I love. One thing I don't usually like bronze because when I look at them, I like to see the coin, and unless you have it under intense light, you can't really see it. This one, you can see quite a bit because of, I guess, the desert patina that's on it.
mm-hmm.
But it also Romanus Macapinus, pictured as the emperor here, and I don't think on any of his gold coins you see him on his own or with a portrait of this style. So it was the stylistic, naturalistic portrait of this emperor, and the fact that you could actually see it on this bronze one, this one up.
Yeah, I mean, here's kind of a great example too. If you go back to Leontius, just in terms of talking about that unique style, the way the emperor stands out, you can kind of see that at this point with Romanus, I don't know, the style just becomes very abstract, and pretty much every emperor looks the same. Usually the only distinguisher is for like a youth or a co-emperor, are they bearded, taller, or shorter? And that's pretty much the only difference you'll get.
Yeah, and if you look at the style on the solidi, I mean, there's no detail. I mean, or there's limited detail. I mean, this really has, I think, tremendous detail.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you'll find if you look at it in hand, the eyes really stand out. And to me, the eyes are really what drives a good portrait.
Yeah, bold and expressive. So it's interesting. Is that a labarum he's holding? It seems kind of awfully small, the head of that, if it's supposed to be a labarum. Or at least
Yeah.
with later Byzantine, they've become much larger, it seems like.
Yeah, I think it's like a square with the 5 dots or something.
Mhm.
That would, and,
That's what it looks like, yeah. Usually that just seems a little bit small. Maybe that style, or maybe it could also be that late Byzantine coins become more stylized, whereas this is more accurate. But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting too, like just he just seems almost squarish the way his body's presented. But it's very charming the way the style comes together, the composition here.
So I broke my rule of not buying bronzes in coins. It's a nice one.
Yeah. Well, I'd say you've had a great recent haul here. Tons of nice coins, and a good variety too. But you can kind of see definitely narrowing in on that sort of early to mid Byzantine period.
Yeah, I had some decent auction wins from a sales perspective, and so I was able to roll some of that into some A&A purchases, which is cool. But overall, I had a pretty good A&A.
Yeah, I'd say it was a very fun show. Just also meeting people and walking around. It's just kind of cool seeing the hobby, I don't know, kind of flourishing in person. I feel like sometimes it's not isolating, but I don't know, it's usually you're not going to have very many collectors in your hometown or nearby, so it's kind of cool to see everyone congregate in a setting like that.
Oh, I think it's great because for me, I mean, in my my social life here at home, I don't really talk about them with anybody, and when I do, I can see them sometimes.
Yeah.
Their eyes get over, and I just know better.
Yeah.
So it's always great to be in a place where you can talk with collecting peers or dealers that have the same interests as you, and they're always anxious to talk with you as well and discuss things with you. Not necessarily even if you're buying something from them, of course, but they'd like it if you bought something from them. But I had some great conversations there, and it's always really good to build those relationships, that network.
Definitely, yeah. I'd say too, I feel like for me at least, part of the joy of going is the experience, not just the coins I find, but just being at a setting like this. Because I think sometimes it can be like, all right, once you pay for the flight and the hotel room, are you actually going to save money? Maybe you break even if you get some good deals, but I think it's almost half the fun is actually just going to a show like this and, I don't know, just meeting friends, and dealers and whatnot. And it's very fun to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that. I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, dealers that have to fly in, they have to have a hotel room for 5 days, they have to have meals for 5 days, and they have to sell a lot of coins just to break even everything. And so I salute them for what they do, and I hope it's profitable.
That's kind of where I think like an NY Inc. model works better, maybe for a dealer. Like, all right, you sell $100,000 coin, well, your entire trip and then some is paid for in the profit you made. Whereas this, I don't know, maybe it's like a 10-to-1 kind of sale ratio in terms of the profit you make per unit and the actual sale price.
Yeah, and I've never set up at a show or a show as big as the A&A or anything like that. But I would think from that standpoint, you have to do a lot of bunt singles and small transactions to sort of keep the lights on, and then push to get one or two big whale sales to make it worth your while and make the kind of money I would think anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to one employee at one firm, not going to share any details, but they were kind of saying, too, they had a lot of sales day one, which is sort of a weight off their shoulders in that sense, as in, like, they had a couple, like, 5-6-figure coins sell day one, and then that was it. Like, all right, the show's made, we can enjoy it now. Not that they stopped working, but it just kind of takes the pressure off of you.
Get it done early, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But, yeah, it was a great show for me. I had a lot of fun. It was also great meeting you, kind of a funny coincidence at the C&G booth. But yeah, happy it worked out. Got to get dinner one night. It was very awesome. Now you're coming on the show. I'd say it worked out quite well.
Some Argentine steak and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, some good beer.
Right. We've talked quite a bit on over Instagram and different things and on different points. So yeah, for me it was really great to meet you as well, and I'm really psyched to be invited to be part of your podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. It's been quite a blast, and I'm sure the audience is going to love the episode.
Yeah, I'd love to see some feedback or hear some feedback, and we'll do it again one day.
Yeah, well, this should be online soon. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on and taking the time out of your day just to record this and chat about some ancient coins.
I can talk about ancient coins all day long, so I'm happy to do it.
Well, cool. Yeah, everyone who's watching, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought was the coolest part about the A&A show and what you thought the best coin purchase was. Sweet. Well, until next time, I'm your host, Sam. Take care.